Yo, I'm shook. This round, you just kind of like Lulu Lala, you know what I mean? Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Roomies Digest. My name's Christine, and if you clicked on this video, you know that we are in the last episode of Battle of the Books. I don't know how to feel, okay? We're gonna get into that later, but right now let's talk about Battle of the Books. If you don't know what Battle of the Books is, let me go ahead and take you to the first episode that I started in January. It's been a 12-month-long journey where essentially I asked creators from Bookstagram, Booktube, and BookTok to give me recommendations that I then read throughout the month and rate via the Cop-Out method. Now, the Cop-Out method was created by Book Roast, and if you're interested in that, all of the information is going to be down below. But essentially, the book with the highest rating gets a point for their platform. So this is where it gets interesting. At the end of the year, the platform with the most points is the platform that has officially recommended me the best books of 2023. Now, the crazy part is that it has been 11 months of this, and these are the rankings. That means that this competition can go one of two ways. One of these platforms that is in the lead can get a final point and then win the whole thing. By the skin of their teeth, they can win. The other way, they all level out and tie for the end of 2023. Do you see my debacle? Okay, I really would love for all of the platforms to tie, because I feel like then it would kind of tell me that I'm getting recommendations from each of these platforms that I'm actively on and they're valid. Like, it's recommendations that I like and social media is doing its work. But I also, the competitor in me, would really love for there to be a winner, just because I know how it feels to tie, and it's so freaking annoying. It's so annoying. So I feel like I have a lot of pressure on me, even though I'm not even recommending books in this. Like, I'm just reading them, rating them, and then letting you guys know what I like. But I feel like there's a lot of pressure and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but this is literally the last round, so I don't even think anybody else is taking it as seriously as I am, but I am literally on the edge of my seat here. Okay. Anyway, so obviously December, we're in the last round. This is a very important month because it is literally the deciding round. Okay, it all comes down to this match, this competition. So I was racking my freaking brain. I was like, what would be a good final round? And the only thing I could think of is a full on fantasy round. Now, if you guys don't know me, hi, my name's Christine, but I am a fantasy reader, okay? I read a lot of other genres. I enjoy romance, I like thrillers, sci-fis are the jam. I recently discovered I kind of like horror. I am a true blue fantasy fan. And what I mean by that is, when in doubt, I always reach for a fantasy book. I don't know, it's something about the escapism. I just like to not be in the real world, okay? So I figure if I'm gonna be as fair as possible, if I'm gonna give the best round possible, I need to go with a genre that I really love, because that means that I'll be well versed in the genre, I'll be really harsh on the ratings, and I'll give our competitors a run for their freaking money. So as I'm thinking of this, I'm like, who are my competitors? Who are my fantasy junkies? Okay, my people that I go to for a fantasy rec. Now, there are many people that I follow and I stalk for their recommendations on fantasy books, okay, because obviously that's my genre. I actually know a lot of creators that I would love to put in this category, but there are 3 people that came to mind that, one, have similar fantasy tastes to me, so I feel like they would really pick good recs, for me anyway, and 2 are like the representatives of their platform. Like, when I think of them as a booktuber, a bookstagrammer, a book talker. So those are my qualifications for this round. I know it seems like fantasy was a cop-out because that is my genre, but I feel like I really put a lot of thought into this, and this seems like it would be an easy round, but I really don't think it's going to be, because I am crazy about fantasy books. Like, when it comes to fantasy, if there's like even a little thing that I don't like, I'm like rated down a star. So I feel like this round is going to be really good because I didn't give them any restrictions. You can do a YA fantasy, you can do a high fantasy, you can do a cozy fantasy, you can do any fantasy you want. You can even do a fantasy sci-fi if you're trying to be crazy. So I'm really excited to introduce to you guys these creators, because I think we're gonna have some really good books this month, and I'm just so excited. Woo! So welcome to the last month of Battle of the Books for 2023. I'm so excited to introduce to you these creators. So let's get into the video.
Bum bum da 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 bum bum da.
Okay, so starting off this month, we are going to be talking about a creator who is the creme de la creme of TikTok. This is a good fantasy friend of mine. She has her own book club. She does so many things for the fantasy community, and I really love her, Rex. I feel like she is always giving like lists and lists and lists of just books that you should read. She also, like I said, has a very similar taste to me. So when it comes to fantasy books and high fantasy and things like that, I feel like we are very, very, very aligned. So I would love to introduce to you guys Zakaria from TikTok. She's amazing. You guys probably already know who she is. She has over 100,000 followers, and obviously for good reason, because she has some of the best recs on TikTok, especially for fantasy books. Now, I'm super excited to have her as one of our contenders this month because I feel like she is going to give me, honestly, like a John Gwynne. What is it? Malice? I feel like she would give me that. Or I feel like she really liked A Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. I would die if I literally read another one. What else could it be? I mean, the thing is they get my TBR list and I have so many fantasy books. Like she could literally pick any of them. She could pick any of them. We could do a Matthew Ward. We could do Wesley Chu. We could do freaking M.A. Carrick, N.K. Jemisin. It could be literally anything. So I think I'm gonna stick with John Gwynne. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my bones. I feel like she has talked about that series a lot this year. So I think she's gonna start me off strong with that one. Let's see. Let's see what she recommends me.
Hi Christine, and thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this round's Battle of the Books. When you reached out to me, I was quite literally blushing because I was like, you want me? Just little old me to be a part of this? Because like, in my eyes, you're so famous. It was really hard to figure out a fantasy book that I wanted you to read for this, and I was going through your TBR, I was going through my bookshelves, and I was trying to find something. I was like, do I pick something that I've already read and loved that Christine hasn't? Do I pick something neither of us has read to, like, I don't know, stir the pot a little bit? And I came to a conclusion because when I was looking through your own TBR, there was a book that caught my eye, and it's a book I actually have not read myself, but it's my priority to read in 2024. We'll see if I stick with that promise because I'm known to be a liar, but the book is The Grace of Kings by Kelley, which is the first book in the Dandelion Dynasty. I've had several friends read The Grace of Kings and the series in its entirety, and they've all told me, Zoran, this book is right up your alley. It's going to make your best of all time list. This book series has become my entire personality. If you read this series and you don't like it, like, I'll delete my account. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get to it. But you know what? I'm gonna make you get to it first because you and I have similar tastes in fantasy. We like those gritty, darker fantasy series, complex characters, complex worlds, complex plots. And I think the Dandelion Dynasty series is going to offer all of that and more. She's a little bit of a chonker, but I have faith that you can do this. Thank you again for asking me to be a part of this month's Battle of the Books. May the best book win.
Yo, I'm like tearing up. Oh my god. Not Kid Lea. Oh my god. Where is he? Oh. He's over there. I swear he's over there. I have like stacks of books in front of books. I think he's on the left hand where it's like behind those books. Oh my god. Why didn't I think of Grace of Kings? That's so crazy because literally my other fantasy friends, like Vish from Books with V, has literally been like, read the book. Read the book. Ah! Okay. My heart is like racing. Zoran, that was a really good pick. What are you doing to me? Can't wait to get into that. I have no idea what that book is about. All right, so great rec. Wow, that was so exciting. I can't even breathe right now. Let's get into our next creator. Okay, y'all, our next creator I'm actually so excited to introduce because I feel like we have been kind of like chatting over Instagram for a couple of years now. I feel like it's been very like, oh my god, love your photo, like, oh my god, love your account, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I just have like such a like admiration for this person because I feel like her Instagram is so aesthetic and so cute, but always has like the best fantasy recs. Like literally, it's very minimalist, very nice to look at, and I just feel like every time she puts a book on her feed, I am like, wow, I would love to read that book, or loved that book, or what a great rec, you know what I mean? So that person is Arena from Book Aquarius on Instagram, and honestly, if you guys aren't following her and you like fantasy books, definitely hit that follow button right now. Okay, so Rena is gonna be a wild card because like I said, we just kind of like chat a little bit on Instagram, but I don't know what she's gonna recommend me. I will say though, Robin Hobb, that would be a crazy thing to recommend. I don't know if she's gonna recommend that to me today, but yeah, she's got Spear Cuts Through Water. I'm telling y'all, I am getting to that book. So I'm not really sure what she's gonna recommend to me. I feel like it will probably be a book centering about a POC character. I feel like she always gives really good recs with that. I would literally die. I have no idea, guys. There's so many good recs on here. I'm just kind of going down her feed. Look, Sword of Kaigen was one of her favorites. That was my favorite book from last year. She's of course got taste because let's be honest, City of Brass is on here. Please don't mess with me. Don't mess with me, Arena. Okay, we already know. Look, I don't know what it's gonna be, so it's a wild card for me, but let's go ahead and see what her recommendation is.
Hi Christine, this is Rena from Book Aquarius. Thanks so much for having me be part of this video series. I really hope you love my recommendation. I know we have quite a few books in common that we both enjoyed, so I hope this becomes another one. My recommendation to you is Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. This is a book that I read for the first time in 2020, and I really loved it. I found it to be really magical. I love the descriptions of the hairstyles, the braids, the clothing, the setting. It's based on West African cultures and mythology, and I found it to be really special. It was super immersive. There's magic, of course, fairies, talking animals, political intrigue, and an exploration of relationships, both romantic and platonic, that I found to be really awesome. I think, even though this is a YA novel, and I normally read adult books, I don't really think there's any type of limitation to this story. I think readers, whether they're really young or older, are gonna find something that they can relate to and really like about this story. This follows Tari Sai as she is cursed to go on this journey to kill the crown prince. The difficult part is that the crown prince is developing this council, which is something that his predecessors have done as well. And as members join the council, he becomes more immune to death because each member that joins, he becomes immune to a certain type of death. So it's really interesting, and Tari Sai has to basically infiltrate this council, become a member, bind herself to these other people, and then carry out this plot. But you watch her struggle against herself and against the will of the person who cursed her to kind of figure out for herself what's right and what's wrong and what she really wants to do with her life and how she wants to treat the people around her. So there's so much in this book to explore. I think you're really gonna like it, or at least I hope you do. And there is a sequel, so maybe we can buddy read it if you end up liking this, because I would love yet, despite reading this 3 years ago at this point. But yeah, that's my recommendation to you. Let me know what you think, and I hope I beat the other platforms. Thanks.
I would love to buddy read the second one. I don't even know if I'm gonna like the first one, but I feel like, wow, 2024 is gonna be my year for like new friendships, I think. That really made me feel good reading. So, super excited because Raybearer has actually been on my physical TBR for forever. And I don't want to say that it was a cover buy, but it was a cover buy. I literally did not know anything about that book when I bought it, but I just remember looking at the cover and being like, stunning. Who are you, Raybearer? I have no idea, but you are giving with this cover. So I knew it was West African, but I didn't know specifically what it was about. And honestly, I really like West African-based fantasies. I feel like the one that really just struck home that like no one else really liked, I think, I'm not sure, is Children of Blood and Bone. Okay, I will say that I liked the second book more than the first, and I feel like a lot of people were like, they did not like that one. Another West African that I really like that's actually a YA is Beasts of Prey. And that one I just really fell in love with because it's kind of low-key what Reina's talking about, but it has a lot of like mythology in it. It's got magic, it's got talking animals and kind of like these mythological beasts and things. So I feel like this book, even though it's a YA, and I love that she said that because she knows that I don't particularly love YA. But I'm gonna change that, guys, I swear, okay? I feel it in my bones for next year. But she knows I don't necessarily like YA, but she's still saying that there are these things in the book that make it really, really great. And I feel like that's what makes this a spectacular rec. I think a magic system that's very unique is really, really great. We have some really fun characters that sounds like they're doing some deep diving into their selves, okay? And then it sounds as if there might be a little bit of romance, which is like the recipe for success. So I feel like this is gonna be a great rec. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for that rec. I can't wait to get into it. Let's get into our next creator. All right, guys, so we are into our final platform, which is gonna be YouTube, and this creator is someone that I have really admired and looked up to pretty much since we started BookTube. I feel like I love watching her videos, and she's just incredibly smart. Like, the stuff that she reads is very much like, I wanna say a mix of classic fantasy, where she does like these commentaries on like basically everything that's happening in these huge fantasy series, as well as current high fantasy books, okay? I can't necessarily say that I do read every single book that she reads, just because a lot of it is like books in a series and I haven't started those series, but I really love her recommendations, and I feel like she's very thoughtful as well when she gives her recommendations. So this is like kind of a tangent, but I will say the reason I like high fantasy is because a lot of times it makes you have to think and you have to really connect the dots. Like, that's why it's high fantasy, right? You've got these really intricate plots, characters, worlds, you know, magic system, world designs, and you're trying to figure out what's going on in the storyline. I feel like as far as YouTube goes, she is the queen of her craft, okay? And I can't say enough good things about her. Okay, so let's go ahead and introduce Hilary from Bookborn on YouTube. So Hilary, I know Hilary is a little bit of a wild card because I feel like she could go one of two ways. Like I said, classic fantasy or something a little more current and a little more new, okay? She could, a third way, just do something I've never even heard of before, which is highly possible and probably what will happen here. But if I had to guess what she is going to recommend, I'm not sure if it's even going to be anything on my TBR, because I bet she has something already in mind that she really loved and she wants me to read. So if I had to guess, there's Piranesi, which I know that she was recommending a lot last year, but I still haven't read that book. So there's that book. There could be the new James Islington book, which is The Will of Many, I think. Is that book out? I have no idea. I feel like it is, but it might not be. So it could be that book, or she could be crazy and recommend me a Brandon Sanderson, but I feel like she's not going to do that. That would be literally chaos in the making. So those are my guesses. Let's see what Hilary recommends me.
Hey, Christine. Thank you for inviting me to be the representative for YouTube for this month's Battle of the Books. I am very excited, and I am about to take this extremely seriously because this is serious stuff. I noticed based on your last video that you've posted for Battle of the Books that YouTube is behind, and I take that personally. So, fantasy recommendation for you. This was kind of tough. I have a feeling you will guess that I will give you a Sanderson or maybe Piranesi, because those are books I feel very strongly about. But I am worried because you are using the Compile rating system, which is very different than a vibe rating, that those won't cut it. Like, you might give it a 4 stars, and we can't go with the 4 stars. I looked through your recently read, which was kind of a bummer because a couple of the recommendations I wanted to give you, you had already read and given 5 stars, which is just like a little painful. You also had several books in your physical TBR that I do love, like Ken Liu and To Be Taught If Fortunate and a bunch of stuff. But I just was worried we'd get a lot of 4 stars. So anyway, I'm taking too long to explain this.
I decided to pick a little bit of a wild card pick that I'm hoping will come through for me. And I do not think you've actually read any of this author, or at least I didn't see any on your read on Goodreads. This was also my first introduction to this author. It is a new book that came out this year in 2023. I am suggesting The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. This is the weird cover. It's The Book That Wouldn't Burn. That's the title, by Mark Lawrence. I'm suggesting this because I think you'll like it, obviously. I loved this book. This is one of my top books of the year. I think it'll do well in the call pile rating system. I think Mark is a great prose writer. I think that you will like the relationships. This does have a little bit of romance in it, which is generally not my thing, but I know that, Christine, you like romance, so I wanted to make sure I picked a book with at least a hint of that in it. And it also has a lot of intrigue. It takes place mostly in a library, which I think is a very cool setting. And although the beginning's a little slow, so you might find it a little hard to get started, I feel like once it hits the midpoint of this book, it will not let you go. So I am really hoping that you like this recommendation and it will get us YouTubers another win. Good luck to everybody this round.
My queen! Not you guessing literally everything that I just said. Ah! Wow. Okay, this is exactly how seriously, like if somebody came to me and they were like, you're in a competition and if you don't win like this round, you're gonna be out. Like this is exactly how seriously I would take it. I'd be like, okay, what are we rating the books on? Like what is, oh my God. What does the person specifically like? What is the person read and rated 5 stars? Like that's how seriously I take this competition. Okay, so I'm loving that Hilary really brought that through in this round. And she's right, I have not read Mark Lawrence. I thought that I had a Mark Lawrence on the shelves over here, but I'm seeing now that I'm looking at Matthew Ward, so that's not the same. Anyway, so I'm really excited to get into this one. I don't know anything about it, anything at all. But if Hilary liked it, I'm sure that I will. And she obviously put in a lot of thought and effort into this round because she knows that if YouTube doesn't win this round, YouTube is out. Okay, so I'm really nervous, guys. Like I'm sweating right now. Oh my God. Wow, I'm really glad that we are ending the month with fantasy. I was a little nervous when I started this because I thought maybe you guys wouldn't like this round, but now I'm realizing that this is the perfect final round for me. And let's be honest, these recommendations are obviously based off my taste, so why wouldn't I end with fantasy? Duh. Anyway, okay guys, so that's it. That's the intro of this video. I hope you guys are excited and ready to see how these books do this round. Like I said, I'm very nervous, but I can't wait to share this with you guys. So thank you so much for joining me and I'll see you in the next clip. Hello! Okay, first of all, I have to show you guys this clip of Sherman because he consistently is always, y'all see him, he's always trying to get in the video, try and be in my lap. So I put our like comfy cozy blanket in his like what I call crib. It's not really a crib, it's just like a hammock sort of. And he's sitting he is so funny. Like just, he's such a character. So that's funny. And then the second thing I want to show you guys, which this is like show and tell time. Monique went to this event last night with one of our friends and they got a freaking large, they got like a large photo taken of them. This is a green screen where they're just in front of a fireplace for the holiday season. Isn't that funny? Anyway, I think we're gonna frame this and like put it on the wall because it's so funny. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm actually here to talk about Raybearer, which is somewhere. I finished it. It's, I think, in my room, honestly. So let's talk about Raybearer and then we'll get into like the other 2 books that I actually started both of them like a psychopath because I'm trying to finish these books before I go home for Christmas. I finished Raybearer and I think it holds up really, really, really well. Everything that I said in the first clip about it still holds true. The magic system, the plot, very, very good. I think the only things that really annoyed me were, like I said, some of the words not being in the glossary because I would forget what some stuff was and there was not enough context for me to figure it out after having already had it mentioned. So there's that. But then also it did do what YAs usually do, which is like there's like a convenient plot point that wraps up the plot while also opening up a whole new plot device, which then segues us into like what's going to be happening in the second book. I really loved it. I think it's an exceptionally great YA fantasy. It'll be interesting to see what it comes out in the call pal. It's feeling like a 4.5 to a 5. 4.5 to a 5. More of a 4.5 though, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what it is in the call pal, but I had a really great time with it. And I feel like I just sped through the last half. Like, I really like the reveal. I like the characters. And I think the strongest part of this book is the magic system and the world building. Just like, it's so unique and creative while also having these West African influences. That being said, I started Grace of Kings on audio like a psychopath. Let me tell you how confused I am right now. And it really is the only option because I found it on audiobooks.com because I was really not trying to buy the audiobook. I'm not gonna lie. I was not trying to buy the audiobook. I was trying to do everything where I could just like listen to it for free. So I have Grace of Kings. I was trying to find The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. That's not on there. So I'm reading that one physically. And essentially I'm going back and forth between them. Like during the day, I'm listening to Grace of Kings. And then at night, I'll be reading The Book That Wouldn't Burn. So I haven't gotten too far into either of them yet, but already like just talking about both of them separately. So Grace of Kings is giving like overarching just like plots and cities and like world building and like high fantasy. Like you don't really know what's going on. Like what is the plot of this book? We have multiple POVs, multiple characters. So I'm just trying to keep up with that one, okay? I'm just like, all right. So we've got, you know, we also have time jumps and I think I'm only in chapter 3. Like I'm very early in this book, okay? And I think there's already been like a 7-year time jump. So I'm like, okay, this is an epic spanning over a specific period of time, okay? So that's Grace of Kings. There's no real update. When I get to the 50%, I'll let y'all know. I want to get a big chunk of it done today. It just depends on how much I can read on audio while I'm doing, y'all already know it's chore day, but while I'm doing chores and stuff. So I will try and check in with that one. It might be later tonight, so like you might see me looking crazy in bed, but like we'll see. The Mark Lawrence one, the Book That Wouldn't Burn, this one, first of all, I ordered it because I was like, stunning. This cover, and obviously I already have Grace of Kings, I'm just choosing to read it on audio. Mark Lawrence, this book is giving Starless Sea. It is giving, what's the other library one? There's like another library one that I really liked. And I was like, ooh, not Scholomance, but anyway, this one is very interesting because it seems to be more of like a tale, okay? And I feel like I say this on the channel a lot, so I hope that you guys understand what I'm saying when I say that these certain books feel like tales. There's certain books you read and it feels almost like you're reading a textbook, like you're just getting facts, world building, magic system, characters, and you're just kind of trying to keep up, right? And those are mainly fantasy books. They don't happen a lot with other books. It's mainly fantasy books, let's be honest. There are other books where you get taken on a journey and you don't really know where that journey is going, but like you're kind of just like going on it, you know what I mean? That is how The Book That Wouldn't Burn is. That's the feeling of this one. Okay, so these are both these books are very two different vibes. Like we've got big epicness, multi-POV, you know, huge sphere, right, for the plot, world building, and no real magic system yet. Whereas in this one, we've got a very smaller scale. We're following this one character so far, okay? And the quotes already in this one, like I'm loving it. I'm loving this one, but I'm also loving this one. Okay, so what else can I say? I have not gotten to 50% of either of these books. So when I do, I will have a check-in, but I did want to go ahead and let you guys know that I finished Raybearer. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, okay? Very good time. I will say that like I was trying to, oh my God, I was just talking about you. Oh, he's so cute. I was just gonna say, I haven't read a YA fantasy. Have I? I don't know. It felt like it was definitely a YA fantasy, but like it felt, I don't know, bigger than that sometimes. It was a good time. It was a little confusing in this one part where she was like crossing the continent at a very quick pace. And I was like, what's happening here? You know what I mean? Like that part was a little confusing. I'm not gonna lie. It was a good time. Are you about to go to sleep just sitting here? Your little eyes closing? Okay. Anyway, so that's my check-in. That's what's going on. I'm gonna put my cat down. That's the update. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I love that about a fantasy book, you know what I mean? You just don't know what's going on until you know what's going on. And then you're like, wow, this is such a great book. Okay, I've been blabbing. I'm gonna go. I gotta go read, but I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Okay, y'all, I look crazy. I don't think you can even hear me. Hold on. Okay, I turned that off, turned this on. It's still crazy in here. Okay, but I have this is our laundry room. I don't think I've ever exposed this before. Anyway, it looks crazy. But I got something that I am genuinely so excited about, and it's this right here. What is this? I'm about to I feel like Santa Claus. Like, you guys know how I am when I do the Santa Claus vlogs. I feel like that right now. I'm gonna go put this on. Sherman's like, what the heck, Mom? Sherman. Oh, sweet baby. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna go put this on. You guys don't even know. I'm so excited. Y'all, if I had this in green, I would literally be the Grinch right now. I got medium, I wasn't sure. But the fun part is that the beige one I got is a large. So I feel like that's gonna fit me perfectly. But this is fine, like I can be Santa Claus. Mrs. Claus, Mr. Claus, Mr. Claus. Who is Mr. Claus? Santa Claus. That's me, right, Sherm? Okay, y'all, if I was Santa Claus in the last one, I am the abominable snowman in this one. Large is definitely the size. Like, it's so much better. It just is happen chance that like my slippers match perfectly. These are from CVS. I don't know when I became that person, but like suddenly I'm finding like great pairs of slippers, okay? So I got these from CVS this year. I mean, I really like them. And I have to say this fit is much better, okay? This is much more comfy, much more cozy than the last one. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Carry on. I'm gonna say it. I've definitely looked better. So, but, you know, at this time, Sherman's baking, and I feel as though I need to check in with you guys because I've gotten to 50% of the book that wouldn't burn, which, by the way, is right there, but I can't get it because Sherman, like I said, is baking. So, okay, so the book that wouldn't burn, I finally got to 50%, and this book, I didn't even know really what to expect, okay? All I knew was that there was going to be a library, okay? It's giving the Starless Sea, but like not as whimsical. I don't really know what else to compare it to because it is someone going into, not even someone, it's like a group, okay? Going into this library and it being like magical and like all of these things happening. I'm not explaining this well, okay? Let's start from the beginning. So there are two main characters in this book. So Levira and then Ivar. I don't know, guys. I'm just winging it. Levira comes from this place. It's like the dust. It's the middle of nowhere. There's not a lot of opportunity there, okay? It's what I'm imagining, like, in the freaking 40s when there was, like, the Dust Bowl in America. That's what it's giving. And I find it really funny that I'm reading this book while I'm reading Grace of Kings, because in Grace of Kings, there is mention of like dandelions. Like there's like a lot of like kind of like symbolism there with like dandelions and like the weeds and how that flower is not really like a flower, it's really like a weed that like spreads. And in this book, weeds are talked about frequently. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but I just find that really interesting that those two things are happening in these books, and I'm also reading them at the same time. Anyway, so our other character, Ivar, he is essentially like stuck in this library. There's kind of like a mystery element to it, like not even like a mystery, but like you have a question. Okay, here we go. There's a question of what's happening in the plot, and you don't really have everything revealed. These are like really good fantasy plots, I think. It's a good time because you're trying to figure out what the thing is. You end up having a lot of questions, and you kind of just take the ride to get there, to get the answers. In this one, essentially the library, the mechanism, the machine of it, you take a book, you go into it, and then when you go into it, this is gonna sound frou-frou, y'all, stay with me. You can either come back out of it and be like the same age but like changed as a person, or you just never come out, you're dead, right? Ivar is here in this library and he's stuck. He's like stuck in this library with these other kids, his family, who've gone through the same thing. Everybody's kind of having superpowers, like everybody kind of has like a thing that they do. It's giving X-Men but not. And we're just going on this ride of like, what this library is. There are like creatures, animal companions. The world building in this is just like top tier. Like, I just really am enjoying the ride of this and like discovering things about the characters and kind of like the plot and having like that mystery element to it, because I really don't know what's going on. Like right now I'm on the ride, you know what I mean? Which is how I think that's why, you know, I said Starless Sea, even though Starless Sea is also about a library. I think the other thing is that with that book, I really just went on a ride because I didn't know what was going on in there. Okay, I was just like, all right, whatever. But that ended up being like such a good book to me, depending on like how the plot unfurls and like where the book is going, because I really have no idea like what is going on, what to expect, like any of that. Sorry, y'all, my hand is getting tired. So I really don't know what to expect or like where the book is going, and I'm liking it. I'm engulfed in the story. Okay, here we go. I'm engrossed in the story, and I think that's the important part. It's that I am truly like sitting and enjoying it, and like I feel like I'm just like sucked into it. Okay, I'm drinking the juice. Okay, I'm having a good time. Yeah, I feel like this is a bunch of jumbled garb, and that might just be because it's super late at night and I don't know what I'm talking about. The writing. Okay, hold on. Let me touch on this really quick, because the writing is not like a Starless Sea. I feel like that writing was very whimsical, lyrical, very much like, I don't want to say frou-frou, but like you just kind of like lulu la la, you know what I mean? And here in this moment, Mark Lawrence, this is my first Mark Lawrence, and I know I said that, but I was under the impression that he wrote like grim, dark fantasy. And I'm reading this book and it just seems like even the first line, all books, no matter their binding, will fall to dust. The stories they carry may last longer. They might outlive the paper, the library, even the language in which they were first written. The greatest story can reach the stars. I don't think my dramatic reading of that was like the best, but when I read that, I was like, so this is a book for book lovers. I was assuming it was going to be about books because it's set in a library, but like I feel like the tone of this book is just honestly like a nod to books and like book lovers in general. We start off, like I said, with Lyra, who has like no knowledge in this place, and I like her character because she does exactly what she wants to do no matter what. Like she sticks up for herself, she's straightforward, she's very just like to the point, like she knows who she is and she stays the course. And I feel like sometimes that kind of character can seem a little hard-headed or like annoying, but for her, like it works. I love her. She's amazing. So she comes from this place where like she doesn't know a lot, she doesn't have a lot of access to things, you know, she gets made fun of and she's not the most popular girl, okay? Like then she gets kind of taken to this library where she learns a trade, she learns how to be a librarian, and essentially her whole entire life is just kind of like turned around, and I'm vibing with that, okay? I'm vibing with that storyline and that character. On the other side of that, Ivar is stuck in this library. The magic is just there, like it's not explained. We don't know what's going on, like where did this library come from? It's been there since before the kids were there, right? And then who was there before them? You know what I mean? Like what happened to them? Why are they the only ones? I don't know. So I have a lot of questions. I'm hoping it all comes together in the end. Literally don't know where we're going, but so far so good. Curious, like I haven't heard almost anybody talk about this book. Is it because of Mark Lawrence's reputation? It's not grimdark. It's almost like hopeful in some ways. Anyway, okay. See you guys in a little. All right, people. We're officially at 50% of Grace of Kings. I have some things to say. So first of all, I started off this vlog basically telling you guys I had no idea what was happening. I feel like I got to like 15% of this book and I still was like, what's going on? I've got some things to say, okay? First of all, wow, I've got a lot of notes here. Okay, so first of all, we're following a story between a lot of POVs and a lot of history of this world. But generally speaking, it's these two kind of like military leaders Kunigaru, and Mata. Okay, Mata Zinru, I think Zinru. So the basic picture of this, it's a big picture story that spans generations, which I think I kind of told you guys there was like a 7-year time jump in like the first 2 or 3 chapters. So it makes sense that it's generational because you're essentially following these characters from like when they're little young to a little old, okay? And I'm assuming by the end of this, they'll be old men. But essentially there is an empire where this emperor is kind of, he's not like the best guy. Like, I mean, honestly, it's seeming like he's pretty much like a Joe Blow emperor. And what I mean by that is just like an emperor. You know what I mean? Like, are any of them ever really good for the people? I don't know, but you know, divine right and all that. You've got an emperor, and then there is a developing uprising. Okay, Mata, who is one of our characters, he is actually from royalty and gets usurped. His family gets killed. He is a baby when this happens, and his uncle takes him in and basically saves him. His uncle's like 13 years older than him or something like that. So there's Mata, and then there's Kunigaru, who is a bandit. He's a thief. Kunigaru is honestly a real cool guy. I really like him. He ends up later marrying this girl named Gia, who is probably my favorite character. She's like this herbalist who essentially is like a duchess, but ends up marrying below her station because she ends up marrying Garu, and you know, they marry because of love. It's very sweet. A sweet part to the story that I wasn't really expecting, to be fair. And I do think that they are probably the 2 funniest characters because like they just do things that like everyone else is so serious and these 2 are just like palling around. So I really like them. But yeah, so it's a big picture story. It's a military fantasy, which is what I would tell you guys. We should call this, you know, Grace of Kings, a military history, okay? Because it's essentially just a story about the history of this world and kind of like who takes over from whom, okay? And it gives you like a little bit of character details and development throughout, but none of it is really super deep with the characters, okay? They have their moments, but it's essentially a big picture plot, okay? It's about the plot of the book, not character based. That's what I can say about that. My next note here is that you've got these different POVs from different characters, and it's giving like kind of like Jade City, where like you've got this one family that is in control of this one clan, but then you also have these other POVs of like side characters and stuff. That's kind of how this is. An interesting POV is that there's the POV of the gods. Okay, I didn't even get this when it was being told to me in this audiobook, but there's a POV of gods, which is so interesting because they're like essential to the plot in small ways, but like not essentially main characters. Like the gods are side characters, and they will go in and like mess something up every now and then, and then you're like, okay, why'd you do that? You know what I mean? So I don't really get the point of the gods being there unless they carry on in the series and like keep going. I honestly don't even know what the series could possibly be about. I do think that the dandelion on the front cover, this is a nice kind of like symbolism throughout the book, because Kunigaru is always talking about how he's like a dandelion. He's like this weed that's come up through the cracks in the rocks, and how like the dandelion always travels the farthest because like when it gets taken away in the wind, it's like the lightest and like spreads the farthest and has the most impact. And he's always like comparing himself to this dandelion weed flower. Okay, I really like that. It's very, very cool. Out of the 2 rulers, Mata is more of like a brute strength ruler. He's very much like trained to be royalty from like the time that he's born, and like being carried away because like I said, his family got killed, they got usurped, so he's supposed to be like the ruler. Okay, it's kind of hard for me to understand who's in charge because there are so many different places in this world, and I'm listening to it on audiobook. This is my toxic trait. I probably shouldn't have listened to it on audiobook because I'm only getting, like, I can't tell you where they even live. You know what I mean? Because I haven't seen it with my eyes. But like, I know who the characters are, if that makes sense. So anyway, Mata, his whole family has been killed. His uncle is raising him to be just like this hardcore ruler, right? And he's like 8 feet tall, like really crazy height, brute strength, never married. So that's the kind of ruler he is. And Kunagaru is more of a ruler of the people. He's more down to earth. He's more like for the people, which makes sense because of his upbringing. He is literally a bandit, like I said. So of the two, I feel like Kunagaru is probably more like better of the two because he's more human to me. Mata, I feel like would kill you. Like if you upset him, I feel like he would chop off your head. So they end up kind of like both coming up in this world in part of like the rebellion against the Empire, meeting each other and then figuring out if they work together that they can make this rebellion work and that they can take over. So they start working together. They started calling each other brothers in this story, and because of that, I'm sensing a huge betrayal to come up because this is the type of story, like I said, it's big picture. Like people die all the time. Like no one's safe in my opinion. And I really just think because we're focusing on that brotherhood that like they call each other brothers even though they're not, because we're focusing on that, I feel like there is going to be a betrayal. If it's going to be a betrayal of the throne, or if it's going to be like death, like if someone's going to kill the other one, because if that happens, Mata is going to win, y'all. He's going to win. Unless Kunagaru outsmarts him, like poisons him or something, okay? So it's just like there's a lot of moving parts here. Not even really necessarily world building because you just have this one world. And it's not like super crazy descriptions. There's some fantasies you go into and there's just like world building upon world building upon world. It's not even like a lot of that. It's just a lot of like the military actual aspects of this book. So yeah, this is the 50% check-in and I might finish it tonight. I might not, we'll see where the check-in takes me. But my plan is to finish that and then essentially continue on with Mark Lawrence. So I should have 2 more check-ins and then we're done. It's not exactly the fantasy I was expecting, like this Grace of Kings. I was not expecting this from this. I didn't really know what to expect, but I'm enjoying it now that I'm in it. Okay, it took me a minute, but now I'm in it. Okay, anyway, okay, that's my check-in. I'll hopefully see you guys tonight. Hello, babes. Okay, so it has been a minute since I've seen you guys. I mean, like, it's been so long that I had to go back and look at the vlog clip to even see what I last said, and I was cackling because I was so tired in that clip. I don't even know if I like fully knew what I was saying. Anyway, okay, so since then, I've literally gone back home for Christmas, and now it is currently after Christmas, and it looks like it is the middle of the day-ish, like the lighting is good. It is literally the crack of dawn right now because I am on East Coast time. Better time as any to get this vlog clip done so that we can get this December battle of the books rolling. I have 2 check-ins, so it's gonna be a honker. 2 check-ins, and then we're gonna go through the call pile for all these books. So let's start off with our first book that I finished, which was Grace of Kings. Yes, I did end up finishing this honker. Okay, so I know I told you guys this was a military fantasy and really was remiss in not explaining that, but essentially a military fantasy is like a story that follows like before a war, during a war, after a war. Like it's just like what's happening in this kingdom during a war. Like for example, the Poppy War is a great military fantasy. You know, what were the events leading up to this takeover, whatever. Grace of Kings is such an interesting book. Like I think this was written so well, but like even my characters that I loved would do stupid stuff and I'd be like, oh, this is a little too real. It's a little too real for me. Military fantasies are hard for me sometimes if they are too real and not as much fantasy. In this one, the magical element is the gods, okay? The gods were basically twisting fate, nudging characters to do things and like act in certain ways. And it really kind of made me a little mad because like one of my favorite characters got nudged in the wrong direction. I had a feeling that it wasn't gonna end how I wanted it to end. I swear that man, I don't know, I thought that for what it was, the writing was really good and it did keep me intrigued like to a certain point, but I can only be so intrigued with a book like this because you don't get super deep in with the characters, and even when I did feel super deep with the characters, they would do stuff literally I was like, ew, like I can't even get behind you now because you have now ruined my view of you. You know what I mean? What I can say is that it really is truly a hardcore, not hardcore because like there wasn't like blood and gore, but like it is a military fantasy. But instead of leaning into the military fantasy aspects, because that's one of the things that I really like about the Poppy War, is that it is gory. Like it literally is grim dark, and you're like, okay, this is what it is. We're about to have some gruesome, crazy stuff happen, and like it leans into that while also mixing these like really big magical elements. Instead of that, I felt like I was reading a history book at some points. I feel like I was getting the history of this place. So like for me, it would be interesting to see where this series goes, because after I finish it, I was like, how many books are in this series? Like, are all of them like this? You know what I mean? And Ken Liu actually did base this off of, you know, like historical texts. Like some of it, like obviously the story is not, but like some of it is coming from historical text and like a poem from like this certain time period. So like that's interesting to me, but I don't know if this was like the creme de la creme for me. So I ended up finishing it, and I really was just like, okay, I can't believe there are 4 books in this series. What are those about? But like to me, I feel like it probably just follows the generations of this one nation and like all of the rulers, and like it basically just follows like how people come into power and then how the gods kind of like nudge them in different ways. I think the gods kind of acting like humans, like putting their fingers into the pie, I think that was really interesting. I liked those parts, but it wasn't a huge part of the plot. Like a bunch of the plot was literally just how the military and like how the different like rebel factions and things were like moving in this book. If that's your cup of tea, then this is the book for you. Me though, and then the book that I actually ended up taking with me back home was the book that wouldn't burn. I basically got to halfway and then like put the book down because I just got busy with life, and it was like me trying to get ready to go back home. So I put it down. I was like, okay, I'll just bring it with me when I go, you know, I'll vlog it. Didn't vlog a single thing, just enjoyed time with my family. Okay, so I basically ended up reading this one on the way over on the plane and then on the way back. And of course, like I'm not gonna be vlogging on the plane, y'all. I tried that one time. You can't hear anything. So I was like, all right, I'll just do it when I get back. So this is the official check-in for the book that wouldn't burn. And I have to say, y'all, this took me completely by surprise. Now, was that because I had never heard of this book? Yes. I think this is a recipe for all of the things that I really love in a fantasy. Like you have this really rich world, this rich plot. And when you first start off, you're kind of like being taken into this tale, okay? Mark Lawrence has this really like great way about having these lines in this book that just like stick with you. I feel like I highlighted so many lines in here that like I want to go back and like reread. Also, having kind of like a mystery element to the plot, like something to discover as you're going along and trying to find out the history of this library and kind of like what these characters mean to each other and how they're all connected. Like I think that's so smart because it keeps you very like engaged and like entertained throughout the book. I will say the last half of this book was pretty like fast-paced, action-packed, which was different than the first half, because in the first half I feel like you're just setting up the world, setting up the characters, and like really like getting into the tale of it, like really just getting into that like reading groove, you know what I mean? But I didn't mind that, and I really liked it. Like I think this is such a great book, and honestly I hope that more people read it because it was a pleasant surprise. I am a little worried that me saying that it's like the Starless Sea might like put people off, because I know a lot of people were not fond of that book, and like though the setting is similar, it's not the same book obviously, so like I do want to say that, but it does give me similar vibes. Like you get literally lost in this world of this library, this magical place where like literally you don't like you could literally not survive, you know what I mean? And you're trying to discover just kind of like the secrets here. I loved it. I said it before in the vlog clip, kind of chaotically obviously, but I think that this is definitely for readers. Like this is for people who love books and who value knowledge and who value reading, really. I felt super connected to this book for some reason. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. And I'd be forgetting plots, okay? I'd be forgetting plots. I'd be forgetting character names. I'd be forgetting things. Unfortunately for this goldfish brain, it just had a lot of things in it that I really loved, like especially like the found family trope and just kind of like having this main character that perseveres through it all, you know, because that's how I hope I would be. If I was in a fantasy book, I would hope that I try and persevere at least and just don't give up. Now, would I actually do that? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I really loved this book and I thought it was a great freaking time. With that being said, let's get into the pile of these 3 books. Starting off with raybearer, okay, we're gonna go into the characters. So the characters for this one are gonna be a 9 out of 10. There were so many characters in this book and I thought that it was done so well, like having each of them have individual characteristics and like be representing these like different parts of this nation, like of this country, of this empire. Very well done. The atmosphere in this one is going to be an 8.5. I loved kind of like every single place that they went and I felt like I could see it clearly and really like be immersed in the different worlds. It wasn't perfect, but I could feel it, okay? You know what I mean? Like 8.5, I'm feeling it. The writing in this one is going to be a 9 out of 10. I feel like in YA, it's really easy to kind of get into that YA groove of like having this really like tall buildup and then kind of coming down and having like a cliffhanger for the next book. And though that did happen, I feel like it wasn't in a way that was like a traditional YA per se. Like I didn't feel it coming, and then it came and I was like, oh god, of course it's gonna happen, of course it is. The writing in this one is a 9 out of 10. Like it very much like kept me engrossed and I felt it was very easy to read. So that also goes hand in hand with the plot, because of course when you have a setup and then it like kind of changes directions, it can't be a perfect 10 for me. Like I don't know, it's just something about YA, like the twist at the end has to be something that like I don't really see coming. Maybe I'm not sure what the perfect 10 out of 10 for that would be, but like I still enjoyed this plot. I thought this plot was super original, and the magic system, y'all, is like so unique. It's so cool. Like having a whole entire council that has to protect your ruler, and then the council is like the only people that can kill you. Like that's crazy. It was really good. Like I loved it. Intrigue is gonna be an 8.5 out of 10, and that's basically just because at the very end of this book, there was a part where like she's traveling to get to a certain place, and like I find that in the travel, if there's not something actively happening, like if it's very like day-to-day travel, like this day this happened and then this happened at this point and then this happened, but like nothing is really pushing the plot, I find that I get really kind of bored with those scenarios. It was a very tiny piece, but then that kind of set it up for the end and like what was going to be going on into the second book. It's not anything that like would make me not want to read this book. I really liked it. It's just at the end of the day, it cannot be a 10 for that reason. Logic and relationships in this one is a 9 out of 10. I really loved all the characters and how they related to each other. I felt like everything made sense. It all jived well together. It was a good time, and I really liked the intrigue around kind of like having that love triangle and like what does that mean when it comes to like a council of people, and like how all of those relationships are intermingled, especially when everybody can like hear each other's thoughts, you know? Like it was very good. I liked that. Which leads me into entertainment, which to me did feel like a 9 out of 10. Like it felt close to a 4.5. I don't know what it's gonna be, but this was a really great book and I'm definitely going to be continuing on into the second one. Next, of course, is Grace of Kings. Y'all already know that this is a military fantasy, so let's get into the characters. I feel like we did not dive deep into these characters, though there were certain parts that like made me love specific people and like specific things. Like I can appreciate them for what they were, but they were contained within this military fantasy. I feel like in this way it held the characters back, okay? And that sucked because there were parts where I was like laughing at the characters. I was laughing at like some things that they would do because like their characteristics came out, their personalities came out, but like in the grand scheme of things, like they didn't have a lot of back and forth. They didn't have a lot of really in-depth dialogue. And then sometimes the characters would do things and I would just be like, oh my God, why do you have to be part of the real world? Like, why do you have to be part of a military fantasy? So at the end of the day, I ended up giving them an 8 out of 10. Like I enjoyed them for what they were, but like not my favorite characters in a fantasy book. Atmosphere is going to be a 7.5 out of 10. And the reason for this is because I felt like the descriptions within the military fantasy, like within the kind of like weapons they were using, within the kind of like gear that they were developing, within the mechanics that they were using, I feel like that was really well done. But when it comes to like the gods and like where the gods stayed, kind of like the different kingdoms, it was really hard for me to differentiate those things because there wasn't like a clear like atmospheric setting. And honestly, I don't think this book is about the atmosphere. This book is truly about the history of this place and going into like this conflict. The writing in this one is going to be a 9 out of a 10, and that's purely because a military fantasy, if written well, can hold my attention, and that is definitely what Ken Liu does well. For it to hold my attention for this long and it be about what it was about, 9 out of a 10. Plot and intrigue are both going to be 7 for this one. The plot is what it is. I keep saying it, military fantasy, okay? It's about a war, but it was very history textbook-esque, okay? It's giving a 7 out of 10, okay? It's not anything super crazy and like off the wall. You know, it's strictly just about this conflict. Intrigue is also a 7 out of 10 because like, is it my favorite thing to read about? Not really, but like I was interested enough to continue and keep going, okay? It's not like a DNF kind of disinterest. Logic and relationships is going to be an 8.5 out of a 10. Logically, everything made sense. Did I love the relationships between everybody? I will say that Mata and Kinugaru, those two, like their whole entire arc of their relationship is what saved this category, because they truly go from like meeting each other as strangers and going through this entire war, okay? And they have like a complete arc. And it's just so frustrating. Enjoyment is going to be an 8 out of a 10. I feel like there were its problems, but ultimately I did have a good time and I do want to continue with this. It's just going to be really hard for me because I feel like I really had to focus with this book and like give it my all. Will I be reading it on audiobook at all next time? No. Like I definitely read a lot of this on audio. So will I be doing that for the second book? Probably not. All right, and last but not least, we're going into the book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. Okay, like I said, this is my first Mark Lawrence. Had a really good time with it. So it's going to be no surprise that starting off with the characters, we're getting a 9 out of a 10. I really love the characters in this one, y'all. And if you have a found family trope, like I'm already on board. I just fell in love with these guys and thought that they were just so good. Like they're written so well. Atmosphere, y'all already know it's going to be a 10 out of a 10. Okay, we're literally going into this like crazy cool library and we're just getting these like vivid descriptions without it being super fluffy. Okay, Mark Lawrence is getting us there without it being super filled, okay? Does that make sense? Like it felt like it is a high fantasy in that way. Like it cuts to the chase, it gets you there, but like I still felt it. The atmosphere, I was sucked in, okay? 10 out of a 10. It's also probably no surprise to you guys that the writing and the plot both get 10s for this one. Plot, super original, okay? I loved it. It was great. What can I say? Writing, 10 out of a 10. It kept me intrigued. It kept me going the whole entire time, okay? And speaking of intrigue, it's going to be a 9.5 out of 10, and that's only because there was like a little time at the very end where I was like, where is it going? You know what I mean? Okay. Logic and relationships is also a 9.5 out of 10. I couldn't give it a full 10. I didn't feel it, okay? That's all I can say about that one. Everything logically made sense. I'm also just kind of curious, like, what's going to be happening in the second book? Like, where is it going? Because at some point it did feel like it could be a standalone. I mean, we'll see. I'm gonna definitely be reading the second one, and like I said, of course, I love the relationships between characters. Like I just thought that was so strong and such a good part of this book, and just the way they interacted with each other, very, very good. Overall, I think if I had to rate this and not look at the call pile, I would probably give it a 5 stars out the bat. So it's going to be a 10 out of 10 for entertainment, enjoyment. It gave me the 5-star feeling, and y'all know what I'm talking about. It gave me the 5-star feeling. So with the call pile for all of these, raybearer ends up being a 7.83, which is a 4 stars. It's right under that 4.5 level because the 7.9 is where 4.5 lives. So it's right there. It's right there. Really, really, really close. Grace of Kings ends up being a 7.77, which of course also lands it at a 4 stars. That was a lot higher than I thought that one was gonna be, but it also feels right because I don't think a 3.5 would do it justice. And then of course, you guys probably have already guessed that the book that wouldn't burn ends up being a 9.66, which of course is a 5 stars. That means that YouTube officially won this round. Congratulations, Hilary. So officially, the board is as follows. We have a tie. I honestly did not think that this was going to happen, and actually don't know what to say right now because I truly thought there was gonna be one winner. So because this is like my actual reaction to the cop-out and like who won this round, I haven't had a chance to like gather my thoughts. So I do want to say that I am going to be doing a Battle of the Books wrap up. So we're going to be talking about every single book that I read this year, all of the creators, the platform stats, what worked with this series, what didn't work with this series, and my plans for the future. Because if you guys might have seen on the community board or if you're in our Patreon, I did kind of ask, you know, hesitantly, what would happen if we continued Battle of the Books. At this point, I am going to be taking a break for January, so I'm not going to be doing Battle of the Books in January, but my plans for Battle of the Books are coming out. I'll let you guys know in the wrap up what I'm going to be doing and the twist that I have for Battle of the Books, because this is a tie, and like I said, I hate a tie. I love a tie, but I also hate a tie. I've got some plans for our next round. Anyway, that's all I can say about that, but focusing on this round in December, I feel like this was such a great round. These creators are some of the best creators on the internet, and I've been telling you guys this entire year, please, please, please go and follow these guys. Follow, subscribe, like, comment, watch their content, and get the recs that you want. If you're a fantasy reader, you need to be following and engaging with all of these content creators because obviously they're the creme de la creme of their craft. I had nothing but 4 to 5 star recs this round, so I feel like that kind of speaks for itself. Anyway, their information is down below, so make sure to check that out, especially if you're a fantasy reader. Like I said, guys, I'm gonna be having a Battle of the Books wrap-up episode. We'll talk then and we'll get down into the nitty-gritty of this series. I'm super excited to do the wrap-up with you. I have a lot of feelings and I feel like I have a lot to say, so I'll see you guys then. Thank you guys again for following me along on this journey for this series. I have had the best freaking time. So as always, like, comment, subscribe, turn on that notification bell if you don't want to miss another video from us, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Bum bum da 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 bum bum da.